But right now, let's visit with Anthony Slam, our risk control transportation specialist at Northland Trucking Risk Control. Anthony, how's Friday treating you?
Hey, it's pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing really, really well. It's funny. I was talking about, that topic I led the show with. We were like 20 years difference. Well, a big change has been telematics, how they're viewed in safety. That's
Mm,
one of those things that would shock drivers.
right.
But you don't have to be asleep for 20 years to maybe not be up on all of this stuff. You could just be asleep for a year. Let's get people up to date on some of these things. What do we got here? Telematics isn't new. It's come a long way. Talk to me about what that transformation has been like.
Yeah, so telematics, it's been around for, 20 some years. It's definitely changed. It's definitely evolved over the years, and at Northland Insurance we've been around for many, many years. And like a lot of trucking companies, or a lot of companies in the trucking industry, we've seen some pretty big changes in how telematics has evolved to not really just help companies with performance, but also help them with safety. Um, and so, it's really important to kind of get an understanding of what that telematics system can provide for you, and then use it to not just improve your overall safety, but also your performance as well. It's really easy when at first when we got these programs, this technology, it was a little overwhelming. Companies might not have been exactly sure what to do with it, but over the time, companies have really kind of taken this and really improved their organization.
Interesting. So that's sort of then the biggest change. Companies are getting more aware of this. How has that had an impact on the use of telematics?
Yeah, great question. So when we look at the use of or the impact of telematics, it's really easy to say to ourselves, whether you're the dispatcher assigned to monitor this data, or you're the safety director assigned to monitor this data. It's easy to say to yourself, okay, I have this new tech. Um, I now have to manage it. I have to, how do I manage it? How do I work with it? How do I use it to improve the organization? And over the years, it's really kind of added a lot of information to help trucking companies improve. Information such as harsh braking events, speeding, location, hard cornering. So these are some of the examples of the impact that it's had on the industry. Another example would be dash cams, which can be useful in the event of a crash. Also, some companies may incorporate a driver-facing camera for drivers who are having issues with risky behavior, such as cell phone use, distracted driving, things like that.
Interesting. Well, those are all clear uses, but let's go a little bit deeper. What are customers saying about actioning those kind of things, those uses of telematics?
Yeah, so we talk to customers, on a daily basis about telematics, and we've heard a lot of positive feedback. A lot of companies are using this to better their organization. They've looked at the data, they're understanding, how to approach it, how to use it for coaching and for retraining of drivers, and addressing, that type of that information with drivers, so it helps that driver on the road avoid some of that risky behavior.
So they're taking that information and customizing it based on sort of their specific fleet, their specific use case. Can you give us an example though? Like how has that come together?
Yeah, for sure. One example that comes to mind is a company we were working with who had some issues with rear end collisions, intersection accidents, that type of thing. So they looked at the data, they looked at their trends, they realized where they had an issue with, particularly harsh braking events or hard braking events, however you want to call it, and they really focused their coaching and their training efforts with their drivers within the organization. And over about a year, they noticed a substantial reduction in these rear end collisions, intersection accidents. So that's just one success story of many.
One success story of many. Well, we'd love to hear more success stories, and it seems like this is one of the ways to get us over there. But it could be overwhelming, right? It can be overwhelming going on this journey, going on the
Mhm.
telematic thing, especially when you're trying to fix every single issue at once. How do trucking companies map out a plan to do what we just talked about over there and take those learnings to get the most out of that data?
Outstanding question. Really good question. You know, when we meet with a company, we talk about telematics. We're going to ask them, how are you using this information? Who's responsible for managing this data? Who contacts the driver if there's an issue? Um, and to help companies with that, we encourage them to look at trends. So look at what kind of losses you're having. Start from there. If you're having a lot of, for the example we just talked about, if you're having a lot of issues with rear end collisions, we have some, harsh braking events that we could probably be looking at. And then from there, look at your telematics data. You might see a trend there related to harsh braking. And then that's a great starting point to work with your drivers on, right? To try to improve your safety posture out there on the road. And a lot of times, what companies are doing is they're using this data or this metrics for performance bonuses. So for a financial reward, either sometimes quarterly, sometimes on an annual basis. Pretty much all telematics companies are going to provide what's generally known as a driver scorecard. And so this will offer you information on a driver behavior based on whatever time frame you set up. And these systems are very, you can customize these systems how you want. There's a lot you can do with them. So you can look at a driver's trend, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, things like that. And that can provide a lot of information. And so I have companies who will use that, and they'll look at those percentages, and they'll base financial bonuses to kind of incentivize the drivers to help them. And that what that really does is also provides positive reinforcement, some encouragement. So we're not just using telematics to constantly tell a driver what they're doing wrong. We're also using it to show that driver what they're doing right out there on the road.
You know what? Like fleet safety, fleet health, it's not that different than driver health and safety, a topic I'm getting into later. Positive reinforcement, always helpful. My coach, Mark Manera, always on Friday, posts out the wins that people have done. But however, data can sometimes be misinterpreted, sometimes can be a double-edged sword. Speak to that.
Yeah, so this is a really touchy subject in the issue of telematics, and I'm glad you brought this up. Um, you know, we always encourage companies to look at this data. All right, keep in mind, and most instances, or in many instances, you are paying per truck per month. Those costs really add up. So you don't want to just ignore this information. You want to use it for positive reinforcement, for driver coaching to address trends and ultimately prevent crashes, right? But in some instances, this information can be used against the company. So at Northland, we have a lot of attorneys. We have a lot of legal representation. We pay attention to what's going on in the legal world as far as the trucking industry is concerned. And we've heard of instances where a plaintiff's attorney will subpoena the telematics records. All right, and so this is important to understand. If you are using telematics, you want to use this information. Let's make up a fictitious driver's name. Let's say John Smith gets involved in an accident, and the truck he's using has telematics. That data can be subpoenaed. And this is why we encourage companies to address, risky behavior that they might see. And so, let's say there's a pattern of our pretend driver named Mr. Smith. He has, let's say, a large amount of hard braking events over the last 90 days. Plaintiff's attorney can ask the company then, what did you do to address this behavior or these hard braking events with the driver? So this is why we really want to encourage companies. Again, you're paying per truck per month. These costs, they add up, and that's why you really want to use it to its fullest potential.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Where do people go to learn more from you?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me back again. It's always a pleasure to be here, and you can check us out on LinkedIn. We put out a ton of great information on the trucking company, on the trucking industries, and you can also check us out on northlandins.com.
Thank you so much. Take care. Happy Father's Day. Have an amazing weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Take care. Speak.